to be live. I thought I'm having a conversation. Hello. No, I'm live. I decided to start a conversation with my roommate 30 seconds before hitting go on here. Hello, welcome to day 15. I don't like, it's like a yellow light, but it's what we can do, ladies. I was just talking to my internship coordinator, and I'm going to go into their office for them tomorrow. But what was I going to say? Oh, it's like maybe 5 minutes max away from my apartment, so I don't know if it's worth it to repark my car or not. But that's what I'll do right after. Actually, that's a lie. Right after this, I'm going to go to the post office and mail a cute little letter to Patricia and also my brother his birthday gift. And then I'm going to go grocery shopping because I am almost out of food, and that is not good. I have a lot of soup. I could use more. One can never have enough soup is what I want you to take away from this live stream today. If you're like, maybe I only have like 2 cans of soup, you should get more cans of soup. That was my only panic buy when this whole thing started. Was my roommate was like, I can't find toilet paper. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, of course you can find toilet paper. There would never be a toilet paper shortage. And then I went to a Ralph's and there was a ton of toilet paper. And I was like, I don't know what she's talking about. So I got like a 12-pack of toilet paper and a 4-pack of soup. And that's that was my plan. I must have looked very strange walking out of the Ralph's on Sunset Boulevard with a 12-pack of toilet paper and a 4-pack of lentil soup. One could put together a very terrifying image with those two. Okay. Let's talk about what happened yesterday in Northanger Abbey. Yesterday, Catherine went on a very nice walk with what's-his-face and what's-her-face, with Isabella and Henry. It was a very nice walk. They talked about books. Catherine was like, you probably don't like novels. And Henry's like, what are you talking about? Like, I love novels. Anyone who says they don't love novels is lying. And she's like, oh my God, I'm so glad to hear that you don't think I'm crazy insane for reading books that make me feel enjoyment and pleasure. And I want you all to know the same thing. So then they just basically keep continuing talking. And then Henry's like, and then there was a weird segment where Jane was like, men like women who are stupid. And I'm like, well, I sure hope not. And then Henry was having a great time mansplaining politics to Catherine. And Catherine was like, I don't know anything about this, so this is great. And that's where we got to. And then they left and she was like, it was a good walk. And that's what happened last chapter. So let's get into this chapter and see what is to become of our dear heroine, Catherine Morland, in these next few pages, of which I may only read one chapter because I gotta mail some stuff. Okay. Northanger Abbey, Volume 1, Chapter 15. Early speaking. Wait, it wasn't Isabella. I'm sorry. Last chapter, it was Miss Thorpe. I think her first name is Eleanor. So everything I just said about Isabella, make it Eleanor, because Isabella was upset with Catherine for not going with her to the castle or something. Early the next day, a note from Isabella, speaking peace and tenderness in every line and entreating the immediate presence of her friend on a matter of the utmost importance, hastened Catherine to the happiest state of confidence and curiosity. Oh, in the happiest state of confidence and curiosity, to Edgar's building. The 2 youngest Miss Thorpes were by themselves in the parlor, and on Anne's quitting it to call her sister, Catherine took the opportunity of asking the other for some particulars of their yesterday's party. Marie desired no greater pleasure than to speak of it, and Catherine immediately learnt that it had been altogether the most delightful scheme in the world, that nobody could imagine how charming it had been, and that it had been the more what about, and that it had been and that it I can do it, and that it had been more delightful than anybody could conceive. Such was the information of the first 5 minutes. The second unfolded thus much in detail. that they had driven directly to the York Hotel, ate some soup, bespoke an elderly diner, walked down to the pump room, tasted the water, and laid out some shillings in purses and spars, then sojourned to eat ice at a pastry cook's, and hurrying back to the hotel, swallowed their dinner in haste to prevent it being in the dark, and then had a delightful drive back, only the moon was not up, and it rained a little, and Mr. Morland's horse was so tired he could hardly get it along. Catherine listened with heartfelt satisfaction. It appeared that Blaise Castle had never been thought of, and as nothing to regret for half an instant. Maria's intelligence concluded with a tender effusion of pity for her sister Anne, whom she represented as insupportably cross from being excluded from the party. She will never forgive me, I am sure, but you know how I could help it. How could I help it? John would have me go, for he vowed he would not drive her because she had such thick ankles. What kind of world do we live in? I dare say she will not be in good humor again this month, but I am determined I will not be cross. It is not a little matter that puts me out of temper. Isabella now entered the room with so eager a step, and a look of such happy importance as engaged all her friends' notice. Maria was without ceremony sent away, and Isabella, embracing Catherine, thus began. Yes, my dear Catherine, it is so indeed. Your penetration has not deceived us. What? Oh, that arch eye of yours. It sees through everything. I've got a lot of questions. Catherine replied only by a look of wondering ignorance. Nay, my beloved, sweetest friend, continued the other, compose yourself. I am amazingly agitated, as you perceive. Let us sit down and talk in comfort. Well, you are so guessed in the moment you had my note. Sly creature. Oh, my dear Captain, you alone who know my heart can judge at my present happiness. Your brother is the most charming of men. I only wish I were more worthy of him, but what will your excellent father and mother say? Oh, heavens! When I think of them, I am so agitated. Catherine's understanding began to awake. An idea of the truth suddenly darted into her mind, and with the natural blush of so new an emotion, she cried out, Dear Isabella, what do you mean? Can you really be in love with James? This bold surmise, however, she soon learned, comprehended but half the fact. The anxious affection which she was accused of having continually watched in Isabella's every look and action, had in the course of their yesterday's party received the delightful confession of an equal love. Her heart and faith were alike engaged to James. Never had Catherine listened to anything so full of interest, wonder, and joy. Her brother and her friend engaged. New to such circumstances, the importance of it appeared unspeakably great, and she contemplated it as one of those grand events of which the ordinary course of life can hardly afford a return. The strength of her feelings she could not express. The nature of them, however, contented her friend. The happiness of having such a sister was their first effusion, and the fair ladies mingled in embraces and tears of joy. Delighting, however, as Catherine sincerely did in the prospect of the connection, it must be acknowledged that Isabella far surpassed her in tender anticipations. You will be so infinitely dear to me, my Catherine, than either Anne or Maria. I feel that I shall be so much more attached to my dear Morland's family than to my own. This was a pitch of friendship beyond Catherine. You are so like your dear brother, continued Isabella, that I quite doted on you the first moment I saw you. But so it is always with me. The first moment settles everything. The first day that Morland came to us last Christmas, the very first moment I beheld him, my heart was Okay. I think it's irrevocably, but I was watching Twilight, and Bella said irrevocably. Irrevocably, because that's what I like. And Bella and the rest of the people can say irrevocably to their heart's content. And until Shiv or Patricia appears to chastise me, I will continue to do so. My heart was irrevocably. Shoot, I can't do it anymore. My heart was irrevocably gone. I remember I wore my yellow gown with my hair done up in braids, and when I came into the drawing room and John introduced him, I thought I never saw anybody so handsome before. Here Catherine secretly acknowledged the power of love, for though exceedingly fond of her brother and partial to all his endowments, she had never in her life thought him handsome. That's good news.
I remember, too, Miss Andrews drank tea with us that evening and wore her puce-colored sarcenet. And she looked so heavenly that I thought your brother must certainly fall in love with her. I could not sleep a wink all night for thinking of it. Oh, Catherine, the many sleepless nights I have had on your brother's account. I would not have you suffer. I have grown wretchedly well, but I will not pain you by describing my anxiety. You have seen enough of it. I feel that I have betrayed myself perpetually, so unguarded in speaking of my partiality for the church. But my secret I was always sure would be safe with you. Catherine's like, I've never once thought you guys were going to get together, but okay. Catherine felt that nothing could have been safer, but ashamed of an ignorance little expected, she dared no longer contest the point, nor refuse to have been as full of arch penetration and affectionate sympathy as Isabella chose to consider her. Her brother, she found, was preparing to set off with full speed to Fullerton, to make known his situation and ask. And here was the source of some real agitation to the mind of Isabella. Catherine endeavored to persuade her, as she was herself persuaded, that her father and mother would never oppose their son's wishes. It is impossible, said she, for parents to be more kind or more desirous of their children's happiness. I have no doubt of their consenting immediately. Morland's is exactly the same, replied Isabella. Yet I dare not expect it. My fortune will be so small. They never can consent to it. Your brother, who might marry anybody. Here Catherine again discerned the force of love. Indeed, Isabella, you are too humble. The difference of fortune can be nothing to signify. Oh, my sweet Catherine, in your generous heart, I know it would signify nothing, but we must not expect such distressedness in many. As for myself, I am sure I only wish our situation reversed. Had I the command of millions, were I mistress of the whole world, your brother would be my only choice. Hi. There, that's one of my other roommates. She's downstairs watching. Hearts. Where was I? I got so distracted. Where did I go? So I thought Isabella had fortune, but I guess, hey Cassie, I assumed you come in the pair. Never one without the other. Where am I? Keep distracting me. I love it, but okay, where am I? Okay, anyways, so I thought Isabella had fortune, but I guess Morland does, which I didn't suppose, but okay. This charming sentiment, recommended as much by sense as novelty, gave Catherine a most pleasing remembrance of all the almost skipped a page of all the heroines of her acquaintance, and she thought her friend never looked more lovely than in uttering the grand idea. I am sure they will consent, was her frequent declaration. I am sure, oh wait, never mind, this is Catherine. I'm sure they will consent, was her frequent declaration. I'm sure they will be delighted with you. For my own part, said Isabella, my wishes are so moderate that the smallest income in nature would be enough for me. Were people really attached, poverty itself is wealth. Grandeur I detest. I would not settle in London for the universe. A cottage in some retired village would be ecstasy. There are some charming little villas about Richmond. Richmond, cried Catherine. You must settle near Fullerton. You must be near us. Oh, I'm sure I shall be miserable if we do not. If I can but be near you, I shall be satisfied. But this is idle talking. I will not allow myself to think of such things till we have your father's answer. Morland says that by sending it tonight to Salisbury, we may have it tomorrow. Tomorrow. Oh, I know I shall never have courage to open the letter. I know it will be the death of me. A reverie succeeded this conviction, and when Isabella spoke again, it was to resolve on the quality of her wedding gown. Their conference was put to an end to by the anxious lover himself, who came to breathe his parting sigh before he set off for Wiltshire. Catherine wished to congratulate him, but knew not what to say, and her eloquence was only in her eyes. From them, however, the 8 parts of speech shone out most expressively, and Jane's could combine them with ease. And they would have been yet shorter had he not been frequently detained by urgent entreaties of his fair one that he would go. Twice was he called almost from the door by her eagerness to have him gone. Indeed, Morland, I must drive you away. Consider how far you have to ride. I cannot bear to see you linger so. For heaven's sake, waste no more time. There, go. I insist on it. The two friends, with hearts now more united than ever, were inseparable for the day, and in schemes of sisterly happiness the hours flew along. Mrs. Thorpe and her son, who were acquainted with everything, and who seemed only to want Mr. Morland's consent to consider Isabella's engagement as the most fortunate circumstance imaginable for their family, were allowed were allowed to join their councils and add their quota of significant looks and mysterious expressions to fill up the measure of curiosity to be raised in the unprivileged younger sisters. To Catherine's simple feelings, this odd sort of reserve seemed neither kindly meant nor consistently supported, and its unkindness she would hardly have forborne pointing out, had its inconsistency been less their friend. But Anne and Maria soon set her heart at ease by the sagacity of their I know what, and the evening was spent in a sort of war of wit, a display of family ingenuity, on one side in the mystery of an affected secret, on the other of undefined discovery, all equally acute. Catherine was with her friend again the next day, endeavoring to support her spirits, and while away the many tedious hours before the delivery of the letter. For as the time of reasonable expectation drew near, Isabella became more and more desponding, and before the letter arrived, had worked herself into a state of real distress. But when it did come, where could distress be found? I have had no difficulty in gaining the consent of my kind parents, and am promised that everything in their power shall be done to forward my happiness, were the first 3 lines, and in one moment all was joyful security. The brightest glow was instantly spread over Isabella's features. All care and anxiety seemed removed. Her spirits became almost too high for control, and she called herself without scruple the happiest of mortals. Mrs. Thorpe, with tears of joy, embraced her daughter, her son, her visitor, and could have embraced half the inhabitants of Bath with satisfaction. Her heart was overflowing with tenderness. It was dear John and dear Catherine at every word. Dear Anne and dear Maria must immediately be made sharers in their felicity, and 2 dears at once before the name of Isabella were not more than that beloved child had now well earned. John himself was no skulker in joy. He not only bestowed on Mr. Morland the highest commendation of being one of the finest fellows in the world, but swore off many sentences in his praise. The letter which sprang all this felicity was short, containing little more than this assurance of success, and every particular was deferred till James could write again. But for particulars Isabella could well afford to wait. The needful was comprised in Mr. Morland's promise. His honour was pledged to make everything easy, and by what means their income was to be formed, whether landed property were to be resigned or funded money made over, was a matter in which her disinterested spirit took no concern. She knew enough to feel secure of an honourable and speedy establishment, and her imagination took rapid flight over its attendant felicities. She saw herself at the end of a few weeks the gaze and admiration of every new acquaintance at Fullerton, the envy of every valued friend, old friend in Putney, with a carriage at her command, a new name on her tickets, and a brilliant exhibition of hoop rings on her fingers. When the contents of the letter were ascertained, John Thorpe, who had only waited its arrival to begin his journey to London, prepared to set off. "Well, Miss Morland," said he, on finding her alone in the parlour, "I am come to bid you good-bye." Catherine wished him a good journey. Without appearing to hear her, he walked to the window, fidgeted about, hummed a tune, and seemed wholly self-occupied. "Shall not you be late at Devizes?" said Catherine. He made no answer. But after a minute's silence, he burst out with, "A famous good thing, this marrying scheme, upon my soul. A clever fancy of Morland and Bell's. What do you think of it, Miss Morland? I say it is no bad notion. Oh, no." "I am sure I think it is a very good one." "Do you? That's honest, by heavens. I am glad you are no enemy to matrimony, however. Did you ever hear the old song, 'Going to one wedding brings on another'? I say, you will come to Belle's wedding, I hope." "Yes, I have promised your sister to be with her if possible." "And then twisting himself about and forcing a foolish smile, "I say then, we may try the truth of this same old song." "May we? But I never sing. Well, I wish you a good journey. I dined with Miss Tilney today, and must now be going home." She's like, "Ah! Oh no." "Nay, but there is no such confounded hurry. Who knows when we may be together again?" Not but that I shall be down again by the end of a fortnight, and a devilish long fortnight it will appear to me. Then why do you stay away so long? Replied Catherine, finding that he awaited for an answer. That is kind of you, however, kind and good-natured. I shall not forget it in a hurry, but you have more good nature and all that than anybody living, I believe. A monstrous deal of good nature, and it is not only good nature, but you have so much of everything. Oh, I lost it. And then you have such, upon my soul, I do not know anybody like you. Oh, dear, there are a great many people like me, I dare say, only a great deal better. Good morning to you. But I say, Miss Morland, I shall come and pay my respects at Fullerton before it is long, if not discreetly. Pray do. My father and mother will be very glad to see you. And I hope, Miss Morland, you will not be sorry to see me. Oh, dear, not at all. There are very few people I am sorry to see. Company is always cheerful. That is just my way of thinking. Give me but a little cheerful company. Let me only have the company of the people I love. Let me only be where I like and with whom I like, and the devil take the rest, say I. And I am heartily glad to hear you say the same. But I have a notion, Miss Morland. You and I think pretty much alike upon most matters. Perhaps we may, but it is more than I ever thought of, and as to most matters, to say the truth, there are not many things I know my own mind about. By Jove, no more do I! It is not my way to bother my brains with what does not concern me. My notion of things is simple enough. Let me have the girl I like, I say I, with a comfortable house over my head, and care what I for all the rest. Fortune is nothing. I am sure of a good income of my own, and if she had not a penny, why so much the better. Very true. I think like you there. There's a good fortune on one side. There can be no occasion for any on the other. And no matter which has it, so that there is enough. I hate the idea of one great fortune looking out for another. And to marry for money I think the wickedest thing in existence. Good day. We shall be very glad to see you at Fullerton, whenever is convenient. And away she went. She made it out! Hello, Shiv! John was like trying to propose, and Catherine was just like parrying to save her life. It was not in the power of all his gallantry to detain her any longer. With such news to communicate, and such a visit to prepare for, her departure was not to be delayed by anything in his nature to urge, and she hurried away, leaving him to the undivided consciousness of his own happy address, and her explicit encouragement. Would we call it explicit? The agitation which she had herself experienced on first learning of her excuse me, lots of hiccups today. The agitation which she had herself experienced on first learning her brother's engagement, James and Isabella got engaged, made her expect to raise no inconsiderable emotion in Mr. and Mrs. Allen, but by the communication of the wonderful event. How great was her disappointment! The important affair, which many words of preparation ushered in, had been foreseen by them both ever since her brother's arrival, and all that they felt on the occasion was comprehended in a wish for the young people's happiness, with a remark on the gentleman's side in favour of Isabella's beauty, and on the lady's of her great good luck. It was to Catherine the most surprising insensibility. The disclosure, however, of the great secret of James's going to Fullerton the day before did raise some agitation in Mrs. Allen. She could not listen to that with perfect calmness, but repeatedly regretted the necessity of its concealment, wished she could have known his intention, wished she could have seen him before he went, as she should certainly have troubled him with her best regards to his father and mother, her kind compliments to all the Skinners. And that is the end of Volume 1, and also the end of me reading today, because I must fly to the post office, where I will mail a letter to Patricia, which she will hopefully receive, because I'm trying to mail it to Spain, and Lord knows that can go awry very quickly. All right, well, that was all for today. Today is Monday. I just had a thought. I think I'm going to read it tomorrow, because I may be going into my internship to do some things for them. So, excuse me. with all that being said, I will plan on seeing all of you lovely people at 1 tomorrow for the first chapter of Volume 1 of Northanger Abbey. I'm beginning to feel that Tilney is the only option, which is unfortunate because he wasn't very exciting, and I have my doubts about him. For Catherine. No, we just finished Volume 1. We're going to Volume 2. But I'm just complaining about Tilney. He's okay. Yesterday he was doing some mansplaining, and I was like, don't know about you. You're no Mr. Darcy or Edward or, Colonel Brandon had his problems. Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay. I feel like she can, I don't know. I want her to be able to do better, but men in the whatever era she's in, the Austen era. Who knows? Who knows? All right. That's all for today. I will see you all tomorrow at 1 for Chapter 1 of Volume 2. Okay. Goodbye. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Bye.